Hume. Jane, thanks so much for your time. The BCA, for one, want to see changes to this legislation. They don't want to completely throw the baby out with the bathwater here, but they want to make critical changes. Is the Coalition and the BCA on the same page with this?
Laura, I think we all want the same thing here. We want to see streamlined approvals processes to make sure that our EPBC Act is acting in the country's best interest. It's helping the environment, but it's also helping the economy. That's where the problem lies. Now, the Samuel Review, which these reforms were based upon, was something that was commissioned by Susan Lee when she was Environment Minister. And at that stage, Labor put the hand up and said they wanted nothing to do with it. Well, now they've seen the importance of it, and they are now coming to the table with some alternatives. However, they've messed this up once. When Tanya Plibersek was the minister and the nature positive laws were introduced, you could see just how dangerous they were going to be. Our concern is that these new laws are simply nature positive 2.0, that they are a handbrake on investment, that they're a red light to jobs in Australia, and that they're a green light for sending more investments overseas. That's a concern. The penalties still seem exceptionally high. There's increased red tape, new bureaucracies, and we're worried about that approval process actually being streamlined. So we want to make sure that we're helping the environment, but we also want to make sure that we're not putting a handbrake on economic progress. Now, we're working constructively with the government on this and have been from day one. We want to see all of the legislation, not just snippets of the legislation before we commit.
In the Senate, are you working with the government so the government doesn't have to deal with the Greens? So are you working with the government on negotiating?
At this stage, the Shadow Minister, Angie Bell, is dealing directly with the Minister for Environment, Murray Watt. Okay. And they are working together to try and affect an outcome. And look, I'll give credit where it's due here. The government has moved somewhat. Just on Sunday, we heard that the minister is going to maintain decision-making discretion. That is a good thing. We want to see that happen. But there is more to be done. You know, the Samuel Review was quite specific about some of its recommendations, things like establishing an Environment Commissioner. We don't have a problem with that. What we do have a problem with is establishing an EPA, a whole new bureaucracy, when there are already EPAs in every single state bar one in this country. We're concerned that this is a duplication of bureaucracy, an increase in red tape, rather than a reduction.
You're introducing a private member's bill on nuclear today to lift the moratorium. Why now?
Well, I think that why now? We should have done this 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Yeah. Because let's face it, if we're serious about a low emissions future, lifting the moratorium on clean nuclear energy is the first step in that process. It's a very simple bill. All it does is lift the moratorium and also allow for organisations like the Clean Energy Finance Corporation and ARENA to consider clean energy nuclear technologies in its mix for either investment or research and support.
So is that where the extent of
very simple bill? I think it's going to have a significant report.
Jane, sorry to interrupt you. Is this where
that's all right. What did you
think? Is this 2.0 nuclear policy that you lift the moratorium and you let the market decide?
Well, let's be honest, there are 31 countries around the world that have already signed up at COP28 and 29 to triple the amount of nuclear energy that they are using, that they are going to take on board and develop to create a low emissions future. It's just madness that Australia has decided to shun this technology when we have 30% of the world's uranium sitting on our own shores. We're happy to dig it up and ship it off for other countries to use so that they can lower their emissions, but we won't do it for our country, for our economy. That's just ideological sabotage and something that we should be able to move past now. This is the first step in that process. Just lift the moratorium, let the market decide.
But it's a private member's bill. This is not something that is driven by the leadership. Is that correct?
It is a private sentence bill. It's something I feel particularly passionate about, and I'm hoping that this is the direction that the Coalition will move in. Obviously, we're reviewing our policies right now, including our energy policy, but I think this is probably my big stake in the ground. Okay. I think that the only way that we're going to get to a low emissions future is if we include nuclear technology in the mix.
OK, there's a lot of policy shepherding going on within the Coalition at the moment, but I want to just finally move to this Joy Division issue. Do you have an issue with the Prime Minister's T-shirt, Jane?
Well, look, I don't like Joy Division in the first place, but I actually had no idea that that there was a sort of a sub-meaning to the name of the band. Look, if the Prime Minister knew about that, that's his business and his decision. I think wearing a T-shirt with a band name on it is a bit naff anyway. But I don't like to tell people what it is that they should and shouldn't wear. Maybe I should rethink my Partridge Family T-shirt.
Oh, Partridge Family. What's with that? That's more controversial than Joy Division.
No, it's just daggy.
Yeah. I hope you just sleep in that, Jane, but we'll leave it there. OK, so should he apologise? There's obviously Nazi undertones here. Look, I think Susan Lee's perhaps making a big leap, assuming that Joy Division, in calling their the band Just That, which is a band from the 80s, 90s, I might add, that was some kind of anti-Semitic or an endorsement of the actions of the Holocaust. There's a lot of assumptions going on here.
Look, this was news to me, but to be honest, if the Prime Minister wore this knowing that it is kind of bad taste, particularly at a time when anti-Semitism is on the rise in Australia and right around the world. If people are offended, well, then perhaps it is appropriate that the Prime Minister makes overtures in that direction. Though? But it's entirely...
Hang on, hasn't there been this manufactured... No one was offended until it was raised.
I didn't, as I said, I didn't even know myself, and nobody has raised it with me. But if there are people who are offended, if it is in bad taste, and the Prime Minister can reflect on that, but I don't know for what to wear.
Hang on, isn't that just the snowflake culture that your party should normally be railing against?
As I said, I don't tell people what to wear. They can wear whatever it is that they want. Goodness me, there's some pretty offensive things that people wear in Parliament, let alone around the streets. But this is up to the Prime Minister to make the call. I wouldn't wear it, but then I don't like Joy Division.
Yeah, right. OK, well, you can enjoy your Partridge Family T-shirt, is it?
Yeah, I'm not going to wear a Partridge Family
You're a brave
T-shirt
woman
either.
to admit that here on AIM Agenda, but we appreciate it. I'm sure we can find a support group for you somewhere, Jane. Thank you. I appreciate your time this morning. We'll see you soon.